Thank you for joining us for All Things MSP Live. My name is Eric Anthony. I'll be your host tonight, and we really do appreciate you spending some time with us. Now, you may be asking, what is All Things MSP? We are a community, first and foremost, of MSPs and people around the MSP industry, vendors, subject matter experts, all that kind of stuff, and we're talking about the non-technical side of being an MSP. Now, most of our activity happens in our Facebook group. That's the platform that we've been on the longest. You can join us there at facebook.com/groups/all things MSP. There's about 6,000 members in the group, and somebody is there waiting to talk to you. And we also, if you don't do Facebook, we have a LinkedIn company page. So you can go to linkedin.com/company/all things MSP. Now, last but not least, we also have a YouTube channel. So you can head on over there. This is where you can probably get the best experience watching the live stream because it allows us to interact better through the comments there. But also, we publish a weekly podcast there as well, in addition to publishing it to all of your favorite podcast platforms. But we also post other pieces of content as well. So make sure you go there, you like, you subscribe, you do all the things to make sure you get notified so that you'll know when we post new podcasts, as well as we're doing a new live stream. Now, the live stream is typically every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We try not to miss it, but sometimes life happens. Okay, we got about 19 seconds left before we start the show. We'll see you there. The views and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of its participants and do not reflect the views and opinions of any employer, MSP, sponsor, advertiser, or vendor. Operating an MSP sucks. GoZinta is here to make it suck less. With their consulting services, they are your trusted advisors through every step of your MSP's journey, from startup to exit. And their software is crafted with care to ensure that they're solving problems for you and not creating new headaches. Find out more at atmsp.link/GoZinta. That's atmsp.link/GoZinta. Level up your email domain security and deliverability. Reduce business email compromise and reel in that pesky email phishing. Make DMARC a new revenue stream for your MSP. Becoming a managed service provider partner with EasyDMARC is a great opportunity for your business to boost sales and decrease risk. Your customers need DMARC. Your job is to let them know that their email domain might be at risk. Find out more today at atmsp.link/EasyDMARC. That's atmsp.link/EasyDMARC. Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of All Things MSP Live. It's great to have you here tonight. We really do appreciate you joining us. And tonight we have a guest that I think most people in the channel know, but if you don't, buckle up because we're going to be talking about sales. We're going to be talking about security. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about tonight. And most of all, one of my favorite topics, of course, community. So we're going to get there in just a couple of minutes. But before we do that, just a couple of things to cover. Number one, Justin and I will both be at IT Nation Connect next week. So I'll be doing some podcast recordings. So will Justin. We're going to be kind of taking turns doing some interviews there. And then Justin actually has a presentation. So make sure you check out that agenda and find out when he's delivering that session. I think it's on, I believe it's on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. So go ahead and check that out. And I'm sure that he would love to see you in that room. But we'd love to see you anyway. So just find us in the hallway, whatever it is. Come grab us and chat with us and let us know what you think about all things MSP and what you think we should be covering in the new year. We're actually going to be revamping the podcast and the live stream for next year. And we do want to hear your opinions on how we should do that and the things that we should do to improve it for next year. All right. Now, normally Uncle Marv follows us on Wednesday nights, but he is busy at ASCII Edge today and tomorrow. So he's going to be doing his live stream at 10 a.m. tomorrow. live from, I believe it's in Philadelphia, is where ASCII is this week. So go ahead and check that out since you won't be able to get your weekly dose of Uncle Marv tonight. And then for the vendors in the audience, the All Things MSP 2026 sponsorship prospectus is ready. And I do have a special deal. If you sign up and you get paid before the end of November, I will give you December for free. So you'll get 13 months for the price of 12. And we have some brand new packages and plans this year that I think are even more attractive than the ones that we had previously. And we have an entry-level plan this year that is just right for those new startup vendors in the space or somebody who's just trying to watch their budget. All right, now I did say we had a special guest tonight, and we do have Tracie Orisko. And I don't know, Tracie, I don't know how I did this, but I spelled your name wrong. It's got to be a typo. I apologize for that. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring her up because I don't know what else to do. Tracie, I apologize for getting your... it's a typo.
I have been called way worse than Trace in my life, and some of my closer friends call me that. So let's just pretend that it was purposeful and that everyone now knows what good friends we are.
There you go. It's probably like me getting called Anthony all the time.
Absolutely.
You know, the whole first name, last name thing. Yeah.
I'm pretty hard to defend, Eric, so I'm not concerned at all. I'm really good. I am hailing from London tonight. As we chatted a little bit in the preview, I was on an unexpected trip, so it's exciting to be able to chat with you guys from a whole different country.
Yeah, and you know, we've been trying to do this for quite a while, and you know, when we got on for the pre-show, because I didn't know you were in London this week, you know, because it's what time is it over there?
It is 11 o'clock.
Yeah. Okay. So not as bad as I thought it was. I thought you guys were still on a 6-hour time difference. I guess not. So
they do daylight savings earlier than we do daylight savings. So they moved last week. And I think
there you go.
Next week. So we'll be back on a big of a difference. We're only a 4-hour difference right now.
Oh, that makes it much, much easier. So I was worried that we were like actually into the next day doing this.
Oh, no. No. I might have
bad.
considered canceling if we were in the next day, but we have, as you said, we've been trying to do this for a really long time, and I had the space and time. And to be fair, I just finished at an event, so it's not like I'm staying up. I'm still up because in the channel, I stay up late like a grown-up.
Yeah. We are both veterans of this and have spent many a late nights and early mornings doing events. And, you know, that's a lot of times when the most important relationships are formed is at the bar late at night, you know, just having those conversations.
One thing that I'm finding is that I am either less tolerant of noise or I'm simply getting old, because as I sat in the bar with the group of MSPs we were out with tonight, I realized that I'm having a harder time hearing people. So that was an interesting exploration for me tonight as I was trying to learn how to read lips in Europe, where all of the accents are slightly different than I'm used to listening to.
I have noticed kind of the same thing, and I didn't know if it was just my hearing as I'm aging or my ADHD kicking in that is making me focus on all the other noise rather than the person I'm talking to. So some of those loud bar environments do get difficult when you're having those conversations. I found it especially difficult in the revamp of the bar area at the Gaylord in Denver. It seems like that has gotten much worse.
I think that there used to be a really large emphasis. So one of the things I've noticed in the channel in the last couple of years is people actually drink a little bit less than they used to. When we were in our early heydays, you would, be in the bar at 4 and you'd still be in the bar at 2 a.m. And you might do that now, but you are probably drinking far more non-alcoholic beverages as a general rule in the channel. And I'm noticing that when we're out with MSPs, our bar bills are less than they used to be. So I think there has been a bit of a wholesale shift to the way business is happening after hours, but I don't think it will ever leave the bar or the common space. I still think, like you mentioned earlier, that's where the real business is being done. It's not at the booth at a show. It's sitting in the bar or wandering through the hallways.
Right. Because this business, compared to a lot of others, relies a lot on its community. And I think that a lot of vendors don't get that. And this is a perfect segue into one of the topics I wanted to talk about tonight, which was community, because both you and I have worked for vendors in the role of community manager, community evangelist, whatever it is. And it just is so different in this industry in terms of the relationships that are formed as part of that community. How important is that in your role today at Huntress?
So it's probably the most important part of the role. It's the smaller of my two teams. As you know, I lead sales development and I lead community. So it is a smaller team, but it is designed to be, I think the phrase that Becky and I used when we were talking today is we are one-to-one. We are white glove. We are heavy relationship driven. This is not a one-to-many approach. The different thing for the MSP space is that community isn't a destination. I think it's a feeling.
Yes.
It is everywhere at once. There are many communities in which the MSP community is spending time in, but when you think about what is community, it is the overall feeling of camaraderie that this industry has created for itself. Relationships here start the day you enter and they don't finish until you exit. And those people become your friends. They become the people that you invite to your weddings. They become the confidants you share your hopes and dreams with, or you share your challenges and concerns with. That's different in this industry than any other industry that I've worked at.
Yeah. And that it's such a unique factor that I think a lot of vendors miss. And we do have vendors who watch this show. So I think this is beneficial to the vendor side of the audience here, that if you're not engaging the community, that you're not able to really reach these people in a way that other vendors who have been around maybe longer can reach them. We also, and I know you've seen this as well, vendors who have stepped away from the community because they've either evolved or they've gotten so big, they're focusing on other things, that they've kind of lost that community aspect of themselves. And I think that's where you see some of these larger vendors, especially, start to struggle a little bit.
I think that if you take your eye off that ball, you're doing your business a disservice and you're doing the community a disservice. For us, I brought on community at Huntress. While I always, I think, held that role from the minute that I started working both externally with them and then internally for them, I've always held that community space in my role, but they gave me that formal title maybe a year after I moved into the Huntress space. And what I said to them was, community isn't one person. I'm going to hold leader of community department as part of my job title. And my title is now too big to fit on a business card. But not
I was noticing that.
Yeah. Like I just didn't get business cards made when they made me global or worldwide director. So I think my formal title, if I were to look on my car or on my desk, it's worldwide senior director of sales development and community. That doesn't fit anywhere. Right. So Carrie just calls me Mrs. Worldwide or worldwide. So what I teach the team every year. So we are a growing business. You guys are a growing business. And as you grow, you bring in new people who don't necessarily understand. And so when I talk about community to our entire company, I talk about protecting and enhancing the Huntress experience. And everyone is part of community. It's not one person's individual role. I just happen to lead a team that is designed for that. But it is, Elaine just commented, personal touch and warmth in chat. That's what community is. It feels like a place that you can step away and be yourself in.
Yeah, exactly. And I think when it comes to community, there's some aspects of it. And you used a word that I really enjoy in this space, because I think it's something that until recently, we really haven't thought of formally, and that is experience, and it's partner experience. How does partner experience fit in, and what does it kind of mean at Huntress?
No one buys from Huntress. They buy from their peers. The experience that you have with a vendor colors every interaction you have with them from the get-go. So you think about director of first impressions. You think about how you handle something when something doesn't go the way that you anticipated. You think about how do you work with a partner who is having their worst day for us in the security space, or you think about someone in their best day who is sharing their piece of news. We had actually 2 calls, Becky and I, as we were walking down the street in London home from an event today, from people in North America wanting to share their good news with us. Those experience moments, that's what makes or breaks a business in this space. People call the community, members of our team, myself and Becky and Jeremy, they call us because they trust us to share their secrets with. They trust us to share their I'm getting marrieds with. They trust us to ask about movements in the channel and where they should go next. And they call us to talk about the excitement of getting promoted. All of those things have nothing to do with the running of Huntress and everything to do with the experience that you create for your partners.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I know from, just seeing Huntress in the social media and seeing how especially you guys interact and the way you work at shows, that experience has a lot to do with what you guys do, in addition to delivering a top-notch cybersecurity solution. Now, I know we wanted to talk about, the solution a little bit as well. Is there anything new that Huntress is doing that you might want to let the audience know about?
So we just recently announced our partnership with SureWeb. It's our first distributorship partnership, and it is expanding the ecosystem for us in mainly Canadian markets and then the UK, Ireland markets. We, I think, listened to the industry when they said we really want an opportunity to buy in a different way, and we wanted to choose a distributorship partner who really valued the Huntress go-giver mentality and married along with a lot of our core values, and SureWeb was that choice for us. So that is new and really exciting for us. We just announced that a couple of weeks ago.
Well, first of all, congratulations on that, because I know what kind of a process that is, having been through it myself. But again, that's kind of shifting to the experience that your partners want. And sometimes the experience that you have internally, whether it's the billing or the way that you deliver or the way that they procure, going through a distributor, especially in a foreign country, makes a big difference to them.
Yeah, it's right now, especially, I think that it was one of the biggest asks that we had. So we have a pretty strong feedback loop through the community. We use our feedback.huntress.io, and the upvoting capacity on something specific to SureWeb was becoming overwhelming. We still really listen to the industry. We take a lot of our growth and feedback requirements from them, and this was a big piece that we decided had reached critical mass.
And that's, a really important thing about the community, is that the community, if you do it right, is going to give you the right feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, vendors will go out and they'll ask for feedback, right? And a lot of times you won't get the most honest answers when you do that.
Yeah.
But when you're engaged in the community, they will come up and tell you these things without being prompted. And that makes a big difference, because it's the quality of the feedback as well as the quantity.
There's a comment in chat about gaining trust. I think someone asked me on a podcast earlier this week, what do I think is a big piece where vendors are maybe falling short? And I think that sometimes vendors come in expecting that trust is already there. You aren't deserving of trust. You earn trust. And I think I've been in the industry, I don't know, it's coming on 15 years maybe. And I earn that trust every day. When someone shares something with you, are you trustworthy enough to keep that to yourself? I know all kinds of things that maybe I shouldn't know, but I hold on to them because I'm a trusted space in this environment.
Right. And that's one of the things that makes a community, right?
Mhm.
Is the trust. And I think a lot of large vendors and large customers, large partners, because a lot of times once they get to a certain size, it's not their own business anymore. They're
Mhm.
working for somebody else. And so you kind of lose that. And I think that's why a lot of your smaller vendors in the space and your smaller partners depend more on that trust because, an MSP owner that has 5 to 10 employees, they're still the main person. They're the person who's going to be talking to Huntress. They're the ones going to be talking to a vendor. And they're going to be rather skeptical because they have a small business to protect.
Yeah.
And they know that they are the guardian of that business. And there's a little less room for error there. And so you got to have that trust.
You can maintain that as you grow if you work really diligently at it. So I've been with Huntress internally. I just celebrated my 5th anniversary in our internal team, and I worked with them to do their go-to-market under the Managed Sales Pros brand for 3 years before that. So I started with them when they were 6 people. I came in-house, I think I was employee 43-ish, somewhere in there, somewhere in the mid-40s. We're now 720 people. And one of the biggest reasons that I stay is because we have maintained that capacity to still put our partners first, to still grow and build in community. We pay attention there, but it is, the bigger you get, the harder it is to do that job. There are more partners that we support. There are more staff that we need to educate. There are more departments that I need to collaborate with because everyone needs to understand what that experience is. So you can do it, but you have to be extremely intentional in
Yes.
every interaction, from the way you curate a dinner to the way that you make sure you talk to your partners on site to the work you do in the background for follow-up. All of that is organic but organized.
Yeah. And it's because I think when you're smaller, you have a very easy culture of ownership
Yeah.
because everybody has a very large part or a larger percentage in terms of their responsibility and role in the business. And as you grow, that kind of dilutes naturally. And so if you're not intentional in bringing that culture in, then you're kind of going to lose ground there as you tend to scale.
Yeah.
So one of the other interesting things that I think about when I think about experience is that the partner experience has changed a bit because, and I forget where I read this. I think it was something maybe that Jay McBain did about how the ecosystem of MSP has evolved to where the MSPs have a lot more power than they had, probably 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago. And so what is your take kind of on that dynamic that the MSPs are starting to feel that they have a little more bargaining power in terms of the experience equation?
I think the bargaining power is great, but I'm going to tell you, I don't think that makes a big difference to what we do at Huntress. We've changed some of the ways maybe that we do business because people need more options, but I don't think it's about power. I
Okay.
think it's still about business owners wanting what's best and us having more options as well. The industry is really muddy right now. Everybody does a little bit of everything. And I think that you have to work really hard to maintain your differentiator. And MSPs are demanding that. But I still think that it's about relationships. And that doesn't matter what side the power is on. If you have a good relationship, there is no power dynamic. If you are attempting to buy your way into a market, coming downstream, if you are attempting to sell against your competitors in a way that is maybe a little less than ethical, you're selling on maybe what features they do or don't have, and there's some question about whether or not you're doing that completely on the up and up, then maybe there's a power dynamic there. But we've worked really hard to not have that at Huntress. And so I don't think that's as big of a factor for vendors like us, because we are working to keep the power dynamic at a minimum. We don't want to have power over our partners, and therefore they don't necessarily have power over us.
And that's a great, great point that I hadn't thought of in terms of that direction, in that it's so much more powerful when you have the relationship of a true partnership than when you have the tug and pull of a negotiation type relationship, or a transactional type of relationship. I would probably better describe it as.
Yeah. I believe that if Huntress is the right fit for an MSP, for example, that they will eventually come our way. Now, don't get me wrong. We have a sales cycle like everybody else. Don't let me fool you. I like to say, like, I don't sell anything. My job is to make sure you enjoy your experience with Huntress on that side of the fence, but I also run the prospecting department. Oh, I completely lost track of what I was going to say. It was a really good point. Oh,
Something about SDRs in the sales
yeah.
process.
Well, so ethical prospecting and selling for, not selling against. Most MSPs don't buy from the vendor, right? Like I said earlier, they buy from each other. So that dynamic just doesn't exist unless you put it there where you are trying to gain power over them. I want them to want to come to me. And that is finesse. And that is slow moving. We're at an event here in London where I don't know many of the MSPs, and there's no badge scanning happening here. There's no come and talk about our product. There is my team sitting down with MSPs and asking about the way they do business in Belgium, the way they do business in Latvia, the way that they do business in Ireland. I need to learn before I ever get to the point where I want to talk to them about doing business.
Right. Because in a true relationship where you're trying to offer them something that is going to benefit them, you have no idea whether or not it's going to benefit them until you know them and you know their problems. So let's switch gears, because I told you, because it's late over there, we wouldn't hold you too long. But obviously, lots of stuff to share. And we have started touching on the sales side of things, which I know is where a lot of your experience lies. We've talked a little bit about, setting up go-to-market. What are some of your best practices for an MSP when they're trying to decide how they should go to market with their services, especially today when the dynamics have changed a little bit?
I think my first piece of advice is find a peer group. I don't care what that peer group is associated with. I don't care if it's an industry peer group or a business-focused peer group, but find a group of people trying to learn and do the same things as you in the same stage of growth that you're at, and begin to invest heavily in opening your books to them, opening your business methodologies with them, and getting the advice from people doing what you do. It is impossible to go on your own. Why not take all of the value out of people that are working through the same stage and get a facilitator in there that has already done what you want to do?
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense, because especially with so many MSPs being smaller businesses, they don't have the internal peer group of, say, an executive team to bounce those things off of, or have the different experiences of finance and sales and leadership. And so being part of a peer group, I would imagine you get more of a mix. Plus, with a lot of those peer groups, they bring in experts in those areas to help you grow. And again, like you said, open your books so that other people can look at them and kind of find the things that you're maybe glossing over because you don't understand finance as well as you understand networking.
Or you believe your MSP to be at the level of best practice. And when you start to talk to other MSPs, you realize that maybe that's not the case, or alternately that is the case and they can learn from you. I think we often try to reinvent the wheel when we are building out a sales methodology or a go-to-market practice, and most of it's already been built. If you've ever read a business book, we were joking about it today. I had a book at this conference, and it's read the first chapter and then throw away the book, because everything else in it has already been invented. They've just put it in a different order. So we are recycling ideas on business practice. With the dawn of AI, which is a whole other conversation that we could probably take hours to talk about, things are changing, but still the way you build out consistency isn't different. If you want to succeed in a business, you must build a plan and a process. And then the hardest part of that is you must follow it. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, where the second piece of advice comes in. Make a decision and stick to it for long enough to determine whether you can actually call it a success or not.
And I think so many small businesses, MSPs and other types of small businesses have such a problem with consistency and doing it for long enough to actually measure results. And I think that's key. You have to do something long enough to measure the results, especially when you're talking about marketing and sales,
Yeah.
right? Because in the end, yes, there's a lot that is creative when it comes to marketing. There's a lot of skill when it comes to sales, but consistency, from what I've seen, you're the expert though. In my mind's eye, consistency is the key to most sales processes,
Yeah.
because that's where,
Repeatable, scalable. Can you do this again and again and again? My brother-in-law, Ian Richardson, I will tell you that man is the most process-driven person I've ever met. He runs all sales meetings in the exact same fashion. He uses the same discovery tools. He uses the same, whether it is 7 steps or 10 steps or 30 steps, it is repeated over and over again. And that is how you get results that make sense. That's how you know whether someone is a fit for you. Flying by the seat of your pants, muscle and feel, that's how Carrie and I built a business. When we sat down and took on EOS, the traction environment, to become more profitable and to get ourselves on track to look at exit, that's where we realized that while muscle and feel gets you so far, you can't get anywhere else until you build and follow the same plan over and over and over again. MSPs are the same.
yeah. And I think that peer groups, going back to that a little bit, is one of the ways you get a lot of experience into what other people are doing in terms of process, so that you can already borrow from them what's working.
Yeah, why reinvent the wheel, Eric? I don't want to plan new things. I want to figure out how the things that are already working can work more efficiently. So when I think of the stage of career that I'm at and where a lot of our larger MSPs are at, it's how do you take that process and build automation into it? So I measure efficiency in 2 ways. I measure it in amount of time it takes to do something, but I measure it in the number of clicks it takes to do something. If I can remove 3 clicks, all of a sudden someone's life is easier. And so I spend a lot of time with the SDR side of my house, where I say, tell me the thing that makes you roll your eyes every day. Every time you have to do that thing, you do the same thing I did to my mother when I was 12, but you do it because it's part of the process. And if I can find efficiency every single week inside my team, I can do not necessarily more with less, but I can stretch further and gain better outcomes with the same number of people, and then use those same people to do different things that are more creative and could find new streams of revenue. You need time to think. And we spend a lot of time doing administrative stuff that maybe AI could build for us or automation could complete for us. And so I'm constantly asking the team members that are entry level doing the day-to-day work. I don't do that anymore. I am far too removed. I discovered the other day I make a terrible SDR now because there's always something getting in my way. So I have to ask them repeatedly, how do we fix this? Where do we make your experience better? Because if an SDR or a sales rep is happier in their role, they are going to do a better job with your prospective client base.
So what it sounds like to me is that you're taking more of the hand cranking out of the process so that they can spend more time focusing on the relationship and the experience.
Yeah, AI should do things that anyone could do. And then you get to focus on your magic.
Right.
Everybody has a piece of magic. And if you can make that your, we call it genius zone in my world. If you can figure out what your genius zone is, which is the things you love to do that you are really good at.
Yep.
And you can remove the things you hate and suck at, anything numbers related for me. If I can get, we use Gemini, if I can get Gemini to run numbers for me, if I can build reports through Sigma or through Salesforce or in HubSpot, I don't have to do that work that I'm bad at, because that takes a lot of my bandwidth away from doing the things I'm excellent at. So how do you leverage AI and leverage your teams to make sure that your blind spots are covered so that you can do the things you're really good at?
Yeah, and that's actually a really great piece of advice. And going back to your comment about a lot of books, read the first chapter because the rest is something. A lot of books on that subject have been taught around the finding your genius zone or finding your zone of impact or whatever that particular book calls it. And that's great advice for a small business owner, especially because they have this tendency to try and wear all the hats.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a process to figuring out which hats fit you best and which hats you need to put on somebody else.
Yeah, when you start, you have to wear all the hats. As you grow, as you iterate, as you bring people on, as I build a team out, I say to my current team members, now what do you want to hand off? Where are the places that you're getting stuck? Because if I'm going to bring someone else on, maybe I can find someone that's really good at those things. And maybe we divide and conquer that way. There aren't two people on any of my teams that do the exact same thing. We do a lot of what I call micro ownership on both my community and sales development teams, where you take small things that fill your cup and you are the owner of that thing. And it could be as simple as posting the daily numbers for the team so that the leaderboard is up to date. It could be as involved as running all of the no-show rates across the team. It could be putting together the list of on-site MSPs at an event coming up and helping us understand where every one of our partners are at today. All of those things take a specific skill set, and not everyone has that. And so you have to find ways to leverage the magic part of each of your team members.
And that contributes to that culture of ownership that we were talking about, because and you literally called it micro ownership. And finding those things just perpetuates that kind of culture, which again drives that experience that is unique to those vendors who are, I guess you and I would probably say, doing it right.
Yeah. We talk about being the CEO of your own department at Huntress. That is from top down, from Kyle all the way through. An SDR is the CEO of their patch of leads. A community strategist is CEO of the project they are running. We put them there because they know how to do that job. And if we get in their way and we micromanage their decisions, no one enjoys their job, first of all, and you don't move as far as you could. I have been very lucky to be given the space to build the next level of Huntress experts. And because I'm CEO of my own department, I get to build pathways. I don't have to adhere to the traditional path of an SDR is an AE. I get the chance to build with leaders of new departments as we grow and expand and say, what if an SDR could do that job? So being CEO of my own department means I get to make those rules.
And that is, to me, that is so important, because especially with a role like SDR, right? Because SDR is an entry-level position. And those people really, a lot of times, because of their age almost, they haven't figured out what they want to do with life yet.
I haven't figured out what I want to do with life yet, and I am 51.
That's okay. I'm a little farther than you, and I think I've got it figured out. But you know, I'm always open to new ideas and fresh pathways. So you know, you never know what I'm going to do next, but it'll be in this space. But
I can't imagine leaving the space. Someone asked me what I would do if Huntress exited, and I was like, I don't know. I think that I'll stay in the industry because this is home to me. I didn't start
Yeah.
my career until I was almost 40. I did a lot of things before I was 40, but I didn't start my career until then. And so I've really only been at this for a little over, almost 15 years. And it's home to me. I
Yeah.
believe that I have cultivated enough trust and a good enough reputation that I will go on to do something different here.
Right. And that's our goal as well. Like, and even, I mean, Amy's only been starting to come to events with me over the past year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
But even that short time and her limited exposure to these events, people are reaching out to her on LinkedIn, and connecting with her and having conversations because this is home. And it's been really great for me to see people kind of adopt her in, not as part of me, but as her own separate person, which has been great and really does reflect how different this community is than some of the other industries out there.
It's tight knit and it's not cliquey.
Right. So let's see. We've talked about sales a bit. We've talked a lot about kind of vendor side of things. What advice would you have for the MSPs who are listening, who maybe are stuck with their sales? We've talked about process and how important that is. We've talked about consistency and how important that is. Are there any other things that they might want to think about or resources that they might be able to tap?
Well, I'd be wrong if I didn't point out Fox and Crow. So Fox and Crow is the company that Carrie and Ian run, and it is all based on sales and marketing process. So again, the P word comes in there, but I think that MSPs should learn from experts. You don't have to pay an expert. There is so much online content from trusted people in the industry. There are a lot of snake oil salespeople, but there are a lot of people who give of their time endlessly in this industry. There are mentor-mentee in the MSP space, and I think that that is one of the most important things that a business leader can be involved with. I am both a mentor and a mentee, and those two roles have changed my life. I have learned so much from the mentors that gave of their time when I was early in my career that I am beholden to give that back to the industry. So if you have a problem as an MSP, go find someone that's willing to talk to you about it. Curiosity is probably the third thing that I think every MSP who is stuck needs to have. We spend a lot of time thinking about why not? Why is this not going to work? And my brain works that way. I used to say to Carrie, I need to tell you the 9 reasons this thing won't work before I can even begin to imagine how it could work. That's just how I am.
Mm-hmm.
And that curiosity is what helped us build a business. We used to do something called Curveball Monday. And if you envision it, it's just like it sounds. There were no physical baseballs because we are not sports ball people, but I envision it as we sat across an office and Carrie would pitch me an idea. And I would have to catch the ball. And I would go, okay, I have that, put it in there. And she would pitch them to me. And she could only do this once a week on Mondays. And she would pitch the idea, and I would take the home run type balls and I would keep them. I would figure out what to do with them. And the rest of them I just put in the basket. And if she remembered them next week, I'd pick them up. And if she'd throw it at me again, I'd say, okay, this is a thing we want to do. But it kept me curious. I'm not a visionary. I am, if you think about the traction or the EOS space, I'm an integrator.
Right.
Carrie is a visionary. And most companies have one of each. As an integrator, I have to keep my curiosity alive because I'm not dreaming up new things every day. I'm figuring out how to execute what people dream up.
Right.
And being curious and asking every question, even if you think it is foolish. I had a really great piece of advice in my career in the early days, and it was stop pretending you know everything. I was afraid of looking foolish, and it held me back in my career for years because I would read a room really well. I can pick up a buzzword or a buzz phrase in 10 seconds flat. And I know when to lean in. I know when to nod my head. I watch the room. And when people are laughing, I laugh. Some of us are really good at doing those things. And it makes us potentially fall into that pit of someone believes you know something. And so I got invited to a really fancy dinner one night, and they sat me down next to someone who knew a lot about something, and I knew nothing. And it backed me into a corner because it didn't occur to me that that's why I'd been invited. It didn't occur to me that the person who invited me had no idea that that was a topic I knew absolutely nothing about. I was simply leaning in like the room was leaning in, and it left me looking utterly foolish. So ask the questions. Ask the same question to lots of people, and then trust your gut on the answers. You're not always going to get the same answer, but trust your gut on what you think is right.
Yeah, I think that is super valuable. I know in my own experience, I've had a similar, type of thing happen. And it was like, it was kind of humbling. And it did teach me that, the curiosity piece is something where it doesn't always come naturally. And so if you are, trying to intentionally make sure that you are being curious. I had a client one time when I still had my MSP who called it lifelong learning. He actually had a consulting business where he taught organizations how to be lifelong learners. And I kind of took that as, something that I needed to do. And I have done it throughout. Like I was not into video and cameras back in the day. I probably didn't get into it until about, I don't know, 7-8 years ago.
Sure.
And so that learning process is something that is crucial to everyone, regardless of how old you are. And it really, I think that's a great example of something that everybody can do. I am an integrator like you are, by the way. Probably not a big surprise. I also have that trait. I call it canary in the coal mine of being able to find all the reasons it won't work, so that we can figure out how it will work, kind of thing. So I think it's valuable, I think, to have in an integrator, right? Because the visionary is going to be the one who's positive about everything.
I call it swimming through molasses. You have to push your way through as an integrator or as I like to use the word realist sometimes. I need to get that out of the way. Positivity is in there in the background. I have to find it, but I had to learn how to do it in ways that did not make people feel like their ideas were bad. Their ideas weren't bad. My brain just functions in show me all the holes. And once I've seen them, I know that I can address them and say, okay, those are gaps I can fill. Right. But if I couldn't fill the gaps, I couldn't deliver on it.
And that is the aspect that a lot of people who aren't people who think like us don't get, is we're not being negative. We're actually just trying to find all the pitfalls so that we can avoid them in the process.
I learned to say those things quietly instead of telling them immediately upon the delivery of the fast curveball. I would learn to hold on to that and go, okay, I can pick holes in this, but I can't do it right now because I catch the next ball. And so that analogy worked for us for a number of years.
So I have kept you longer than I said I was going to.
No worries.
I do appreciate you taking the time for this. And actually, we are going to have Ian on here in, I think it's a couple of weeks. I don't think Carrie and I have actually set a date yet, but she does want Ian to come on the show. And so we will have him on. So that was a great tee up for that. Thank you very much.
No
where are you going to be next?
I head back from here on Friday. I get to spend a lovely weekend at home, and then I am off to Orlando for a night of Evolve, and then I'm off to Dallas for a leadership meeting.
Wow. So the life of a community leader.
Yeah. You're never in the same place twice, but I also never have to make my bed, so I'll take it.
There you go. Well, Tracie,
Appreciate
thank
you
you
having me
so
on.
much for tonight. I really do appreciate, you hanging in at this late hour in London. And you know what? We will catch up somewhere soon.
Sounds good. I appreciate your time. Thanks for chasing me long enough to actually get me to commit.
All it took was us being, where were we? CMIT. I think we were at
CMIT.
the CMIT show.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again. I'll see you
All right.
around.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye. Hey, thanks for watching All Things MSP Live. You can reach me, Eric Anthony, at eric@allthingsmsp.com. If you're a guest, if you're a vendor, if you want to sponsor the show, let me know.